I think for me, one of the key takeaways has been the fact that we're seeing increasing acceptance of the impact that digitalization will have on our industry, and we've seen some very good examples of the way in which some of the players within the industry are adopting those technologies, embracing them, and actually having a really positive impact on the way they design and operate their facilities through the use of digitalization. If I go back a year or two, it was something that was talked about, but now we're seeing real evidence that people are adopting that. There's real change happening and some real benefits being realized. Well, I think there's been an acceptance of the fact that oil price will always be unpredictable, and in order to remain competitive, the FPSO sector has to work harder to become cost competitive and remain cost competitive. So as market activity has begun to pick up, we've heard quite a lot about a sort of pickup in market activity over the course of the last 2 days. As market picks up, we need to make sure that we maintain cost discipline and that we maintain the pace of technological improvement so that we can remain competitive with other sectors of the industry. In terms of sustainability, I think the key for me is the fact that with digitalization, we're beginning to figure out how to get more insights from the data that we collect, and with those insights we can get better at optimizing our production operations, and by doing that we can reduce the levels of emissions, the levels of discharges and so forth. So by having access to this data and then doing more work with the data, using the data in a better way, we can optimize our production operations and reduce our overall emissions and our overall discharges. So I think the world of digitalization will help us to improve not only the way we maintain and look after our assets, but it will also help us optimize our production operations. I think we're making great progress in terms of production operations and the management of our assets, but I think we still have some way to go to bringing what we're learning from the digitalization initiatives that I mentioned earlier and bringing that back into the design process, because I think we still have some way to go in order to design more effective facilities, more compact facilities, and then to move towards a facility in the future where we have either much lower levels of manning offshore or indeed completely unmanned facilities. And again, if we can develop unmanned facilities, we're going to be sending fewer people offshore. That will help again with sustainability and reduce the level of emissions as a result of fewer transportation activities. And so I think we can bring some of the lessons that we've been learning back into the design process, and if we do that, then I think we can become more efficient in terms of the way we design and then build these facilities. I think for me, reducing the levels of manning will be the biggest tangible evidence that we're making progress. If we can start seeing many fewer people working offshore, we're not talking about reducing the level of employment. What we're doing is we're shifting those roles from offshore to onshore, and we're taking people out of harm's way in the offshore environment and bringing them back onshore, and making use of subject matter experts onshore who can then look after multiple assets, because the sort of tools we're developing will allow people to do asset maintenance and asset integrity work across a range of assets, because they'll be shore-based rather than offshore-based. So we can make better use of the people within the industry through those sorts of initiatives.